Hello, we are live. Hello, everybody. Come on in, come on in, come on in, come on in. Good morning, everybody. Hello to you. Just doing some quick invites here, see if everyone wants to come and hang out. We have an open panel as always, and this is going to be a special, extra special little live that we have going on here. Good morning. And I'll get down to the nitty-gritty in just a mini. Okay, let me just send out some more invites. How's everybody doing this week so far? Hope everyone's having a blessed week. Okay. Just a few more invites and we're good to go. Okay. Alright. How's everyone's work week going so far? For my working class people out there, which will never be Gypsy Rose Blanchard ever, because that's what she said. It's like, I don't plan on working ever. It's like, wow, aren't you ambitious? She's the most ambitious person we know, don't you know? Don't you know? Okay. We have, like I said, once again, we do have an open panel. It is Monday. That's right, Fancy. But I'm going to get down to the subject matter, but whoever wants to come up on panel, please invite yourself because I will gladly accept you. Let's have a good conversation and start this one out right. Start this one out pretty dang good. I'm ready to start getting the talking going. Okay, just a few more invites and we're good in the hood. Okay. All right, how's everybody doing? How's everyone's work week going so far? Anyways, I just posted first of all, I just put up part 5 of the debunk series. That has gone up. I also posted just kind of not ranting and raving, but I'm asking several questions to not only Gypsy herself, but to her supporters. I could do like a part 2, part 3, part 4 on this, but these were just the questions that I have for supporters directly from, me. So I challenged them to give me any answers they want to provide, whether they want to do it in a live or whether they want to, do it just through commenting. That's perfectly fine. I could provide the evidence of the contrary if they want to actually sit down and, try to answer some of these, because a lot of them are very contradictory, just like it shows in the series I did recently. And just so everybody knows that a lot of the content that I got for the debunk series was from Disco Superfly. At first, I was a little bit confused on where the actual content, because someone gave me the video for that content, and it only had like a few hundred views. It didn't have a profile picture on the channel. I thought it was just something that was just kind of recycled, and then I actually looked and saw it was a legitimate channel. So then I started to make sure I credited that person, so that way everyone goes and follows them. Disco Superfly on YouTube, if you go follow them, they helped collaborate this and did some great work with it. I also posted, it's actually a repost, but I did one where I show examples to Gypsy and to whoever wants to see it, that basically in any other case that I've ever seen, the one that plans the crime gets the most time. And Charles Manson was my first example in that. That's why people call her Gypsy Rose Manson, is because literally it was the same thing. It's just like, he had a bunch of people at his bidding do a bunch of murdering, and even though he didn't touch a person, like Gypsy with their own narrative, it's like, I didn't do the KILL. That's why Nick's in trouble. It's like, well, neither did Mr. Manson. Is he just as innocent as you? Should he have just gotten, a slap on the wrist for 8 years, come out with his own reality show? How come he didn't? What is it? Is it Missouri privilege? Young female pipsqueak privilege? Girls that can girls that can depict a 9-year-old privilege? I don't know. It's a mystery to me. But once again, now that some people are coming in, come on the panel. Let's have a little talk. And once again, another thing is what I want to do in the video I just posted is have you guys or whoever's interested is to leave more questions in there for to ask Gypsy or to add to my next video addressing more questions to Gypsy and her supporters. And I am going to tag some of her supporters in there in case they want to come in and clarify some of that stuff. And again, I am not going to, oh, thank you, Lenny. I am not going to be going with the narrative of Gypsy said so. I'm like, it's got to be better than that because I'm not going to believe a word a self-admitted pathological liar says. You can't just sit there and cherry pick what you're going to believe from somebody that admits herself that she cannot tell the truth. In fact, one of the prison emails from that series I just posted recently says lying is her go-to. That's like something that she goes to on a regular that she went to on a regular basis. She was actually going to file false SA charges on another girl that she had sex with behind bars. It's crazy, but it's like I mean, she says she recanted it and whatever, but it's just like it just shows that like she's willing to go to any lengths just to cover up her own ridiculousness. But once again, I want to talk about stuff like this, about, questions that we could have for her supporters and, what questions they can be. And, like, the ones that, stand out, like whether there's contradictory statements, stuff. Again, like another one, she is very vindictive, absolutely. Vindictiveness, especially like, leaving your husband, Ryan, and then going to get schnocked up as quick as possible with Ken, just to make sure that Ken can't get away this time. Make Ryan feel really, really horrible. And yeah, again, baby trapping. I will never be convinced of otherwise. I mean, look how I found out about the baby before I found out that they get back together. That's how quick, insanely quick, that, before I even found out her and Ken got back together, heard about the pregnancy first. That's how freaking fast it happened. But anyways, you guys better start filling up these panels, or I'm gonna start inviting you guys for me. I'm gonna start sending out invites. You guys better answer them. Well, you guys can do whatever you want, but I do want to have some conversations with you guys. Yeah, she did plan that, getting knocked up. Absolutely, she did. Again, I will never be convinced of otherwise. It's just too convenient. The timing is just way too glorious for her to, basically as soon as her and Ken make contact with each other, she's basically like, prego from that day forward. I wouldn't be surprised if it was on the first try. Oh boy. And I'm pretty sure she took every precaution she could to make sure something like that could happen. I'm pretty sure birth control was not even a thought in her mind. But, that's Gypsy for you. And that's one of the most tragic things about this, is that she has brought an innocent child into the fold. But, all right, I'm going to start inviting people, see if they want to come in and talk. Fancy, I'll invite you in if you want to come talk. Let me see. Who else could want to come in? All right, let's see. I'm going to start sending invitations. Don't make me do it. Don't make me do it. I'm just kidding. You guys can come in if you want. But we got open spaces right here. A lot of job openings. Just kidding. If it was Ryan's, well, again, I think no matter who she has a child.
Hey.
Hey, Fancy, how you doing?
I'm okay. How are you? It's a
Pretty good.
Monday.
So, oh, it is a Monday. That's very true. So I can understand people's hesitation today. Now, one video I just posted, I literally just posted it, is a bombardment of questions because I've been doing the debunk videos lately, and I
Right.
reiterated to a few of them. But I'm challenging her supporters to come and answer these questions as cohesively as possible, if at possible at all. Because, again, all the ones I'm asking are basically contradictions or are found in medical
Right.
records.
Oh,
She went on
shit.
Dr. Phil with 20, 30, 40, 50, surgeries she was talking about. But in her own medical records that she released, there's 4 listed. So what is it? Which one's it? Was she lying on Dr. Phil? I want to hear from them and see how they could justify all the contradictions that have been listed. And I've been putting them in all the debunk video series so far. So that I would like to see. Hello, Becky Sue. Hope all is well. Yep. And good morning, everybody else. But yeah, I encourage everybody to go watch that video and leave questions for Gypsy and her supporters in there, and I will include them in the next video. I'm going to do a part two with it. I could probably do like a whole series with that just itself of just asking the questions, and I would be very impressed if one of them wants to come on, not on the basis of Gypsy said so. That's just not going to happen. If you have evidence, as Bree says, she has 8,000 pages of medical documents, not only medical documents that we don't deserve to see, her words alone, but also that she's able, even though she has no medical training, I do.
Sorry about that. My husband called in right as you were talking to me. So I have
Well, that's
no
okay.
idea what you even said about the reaction video and the questions. So I'm sorry about that. But I mean, I think that giving the content the way we're a lot of us are doing it now with these small bits of pieces of just there is this and this is what we're going to talk about right now. You like with the Dr. Steele. I went through every single thing he said, and every single thing he said on Lifetime Confessions was a lie that I could prove through the medical records, and I think maybe that's where I'm at right now, because I feel like anything else that we're doing is just it's falling on deaf ears at this point. I think we've put everything out there we can possibly put out, as far as to the public as content creators. Yes, we need a documentary, of course, and I'm working on one, but I feel like maybe giving them the bite-sized pieces that they can't refute, and not focusing necessarily on the Gypsy piece of this, but the other people who made this happen the way it did. I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's like my main well, first of all, like I think we are making a good impact because like everywhere I go, well, first of all, anytime Gypsy starts like collaborating with somebody or has a sponsor collaborating with her, lots of people go in there and be like, "Are you aware of what she did? Are you aware of some of the FOIA file?" And plus, also, I was looking at some story that Nancy Grace was reporting. It might have been on Nancy Guthrie or something like that. But I saw in the comment section, like, Nancy, I would really like to see you cover the Gypsy Rose FOIAs. And it was
She used to be a big supporter of Gypsy,
as we all were.
back in the day, but that was long, long, long before the FOIAs came out. So I would love to hear from Nancy on the FOIAs and see what she thinks today.
Yeah, and I understand that Nancy's like, not for everybody. She's a very acquired taste. I personally love her. Like and I can understand that, you know what I mean. Some people don't like her demeanor or her accent, or she's a little bit.
Well, that's what some people don't like about me either. So, she's very direct, she's very blunt. But if you read Nancy's book about what her life was like and what inspired her to become a lawyer and all of this, it's very interesting, and you begin to understand the brashness and the bold way that she is.
Murdered. Her fiance was murdered.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what made her become what she is today, So, you have to know that about her. I have a personal relationship with a couple of her reporters back in the day through, I'm friends with Joseph Scott Morgan and a bunch of the people that hang out on her panel. And I got to really know two of her reporters. One of them passed away recently. But through them and getting to know Nancy in that way, it really changed my opinion of her. Because at first I was like, this woman is always just, angry. But I would really love to hear her opinion on this at this point. I think she's not afraid to admit she got something wrong. So I would love for her to come out and really give a really good commentary on all of this.
Absolutely, and I do think there's going to be eventually going to be a documentary, hopefully one that hits Netflix or something, kind of like The Crash and Maternal Instinct. I want to see it on that level where it's like #1 worldwide of Gypsy Rose, the FOIA files. You know what I mean? Something like that. I want to see something with that shows that the narrative of the Shabuse has basically been one big dupe the entire time. And again, it's just like one of the questions I do ask in the video I just posted is like, if all this abuse was true, how come she didn't say anything to the investigators when she was being interrogated? Dee Dee's already gone, so she can't use that excuse. And then how come she also didn't say anything to Rod and Christy over the phone,
Yeah.
over the jail phone calls, or anyone she called over the jail phone calls?
Never.
And also,
Never.
how come she said nothing to her lawyers when she first met up with them? It's like, they had to come up with the abuse narrative. Hi, Mother Loving. And just, yeah, just, if that were true, it's like, and they said, if she goes to trial, she's going to go away for life. Well, if she truly was abused and they can prove this, it's like, why would she go away for life? That doesn't make
They
any
knew
sense.
they couldn't. That's the thing. And that was why getting the interrogation video was the turning point for me. Because at that time, I didn't have the FOIAs. I didn't have this information. We just had our gut and what we could piece together from certain pieces of information. Because I was the first one to get the actual first FOIA from Dan Patterson, and he sent it to me for free. And I was the first person to put that out there for everybody to read. And that was the beginning of us really kind of coming together and understanding this. But for years before that, we had nothing. We were just going by whatever she said, whatever we had, the documentaries. And so when the A&E producer finally sent me the whole interrogation video, I sat there the whole time going, come on, Gypsy, when are you going to tell him? Come on, Gypsy, when are you going to say it? When are you going to say it? But my mom abused me. But my mom did this. But my mom did that. But did it? And it never came. And I watched the breaking moment for me, first was when she acted like she didn't know that her mom was dead. That was really kind of crazy to me. But the real break for me in the interrogation video is when Stan Hancock gives her the out of, did you know, or did he do this? And did you try to stop him? And she immediately, you can watch her face shift. And she immediately turns and she realizes, oh, he just gave me my out. And she just throws Nick so far under the bus, it's not even funny. And I watched that happen and just went, oh, we are dealing with something I didn't know we were dealing with. Like, right. Because I've dealt with sociopaths before and psychopaths before. And so I saw it in that moment and I went, oh boy, oh boy.
The moment
and it shocked all of us to a core.
Yeah, the moment for me especially was when she was in the interrogation room, and believe me, she was willing to talk about anything except
else. Yep.
Magic Kingdom to her mother's cooking, and you know what I mean. She's trying to really shine a really beautiful light on her mom to make it look like she would never do this, And then on top of that, it was just as soon as they came in, oh, your mother's been unalive. She's like, she has this Pee Wee Herman look on her face because that's exactly who she looks like. She's like.
Yeah, right.
No, they can't be doing it. I'm just like, this is the worst liar I've ever seen in my life. And plus, plus one thing she can never get away from is if Nick did all this and did it on his own and he was a sick person, why are you in a hotel room with him 48 hours later? Laughing and eating these brownies and eating something else and all that other stuff. You're not gonna get away from that brownie video. It's just as soon as it's the next thing you see from the timeline is after the murder, it's them laughing, cackling, and having the time. She blames it on, I was on drugs. It's just there's always an excuse with her.
Yeah. Always. And then to watch her on Dr. Phil, where he asks her about Nicholas and how does she feel about him, and instead of saying if the abuse had been real and this was a real story, then the answer would have been, I don't think what he did was right. I realize now what we did was wrong, but he saved me from this horrible situation that I was in that I didn't understand how to get out of. No, what does she say? Oh, I hate him. I hate him. If I told a real man that, they would have said no. Guess what? You did tell real men that, and they did say no. That's the thing. You didn't care about that. You wanted to find one who would say yes, and you did.
Also, one other question I asked in the newest video about, these are again. I just want to get everyone caught up really quick. I just posted a video, and these are direct questions to her supporters that I'm challenging them to answer. There's a whole bunch of them. But another one that I ask is like, okay, remember the pew pew situation with her mom? It's just like she in her life after lockup, not life after lockup, but the prison diaries one. That one, she says, I emptied the pew pew on her, and thank God it was a fake one. Thank God it was a BB one. Oh my God! It was in that moment that I realized it was a BB pew pew. Thank God. But then she goes on Kale Lowry's podcast after she gets out of prison. She's like, I knew it the entire time. The entire time, I knew it would be. Well, first of all, even if that was true, you still unloaded whether it's pellets, BBs, or if it was a shotgun. Doesn't really matter to me. It's just like you still, with intentions to cause harm, unloaded a pew pew onto your own mother, and you're gonna sit there and say like you just had nothing against her, and you were just lost a loving mother. Again, she didn't say she did this because she was abusive. Nothing.
Right. And you know that we never knew that story before Lifetime Confessions, right? We'd never heard that story before.
Nope.
We had the police report.
She told on herself.
Not the police report. We had the doctor's report of Dee Dee.
Of the injuries.
Going to the ER. But we never had the story. We never heard that story. We thought, okay, they got shot in a Walmart parking lot. We didn't know. We had no freaking clue.
If that was the case, why didn't they check the cameras from the parking lot, in Walmart?
Right.
Yeah. So no boogeyman there shooting anyone.
Exactly. So but it blew me away when she was saying that. I just stopped and I was like, oh my God, we always thought that was a truthful story. And now, holy crap, it was her. Like, it just blew my mind. I had to stop the show and pause and take that in for a minute because it just rocked my world for a second.
Absolutely.
I was oh my
really quickly,
God.
I want to tell everybody about that video I just posted with all the questions. Now, I want you guys to participate as well. Everybody that's watching this, go to that video whenever you get a chance. If you want to, you don't have to. If there's any questions or contradictions that you think should be added in the next video, because I'm going to do a part 2, part 3, or whatever it takes. Please leave your question in there, and I'm going to include it in the next video, or I'll just reply to it like in a reply video kind of thing. And do it that way. Either way, I would love to have your guys' input on what questions you have for her, or whatever challenge you want to give to her supporters on certain aspects. Now, here's an interesting one that I asked towards the end. Now, when she was talking about her birthdays, she was talking about how she didn't know her real age. She never had birthday cakes with numbers on them, even though I had pictures of them with numbers right on them.
Right.
That's a whole other story. But, let's play devil's advocate and say that's true. She did not know her own age, and, for some whatever reason, her mom manipulated her of her age. But when she's talking about the Barbie doll narrative, she is 100% sure of, she changed the age a couple times because I think she can't keep up with her own lies, but she was talking about her very particular age of when she was 4, 5, and 6 of what toys she played with then, and it wasn't until this age that she got, was able to play with Barbie dolls. It's like, well, wait a minute. I thought you didn't even know your age. Now you're very particular about your age when it comes to playing with toys.
Yeah.
So, you can't have that both ways. So wait, you didn't know your age, or you did know your age because you knew what age of what toys you were playing with when. So it's just like that. It's not like she's like, well, I still had a confusion about my age. I don't know exactly when I was playing with those toys, but I did at some point. No, she's like, at age this, my mom said I couldn't play with the dolls. And then when I turned this age, I was able to do it. Yeah, so it's just like, once again, it's just like when someone can't keep their lies straight and they go onto a different narrative where it requires her to talk about her age, it's just like, again, she's telling on herself. It's one of the most astonishing things. And it's just even crazier that, people are still supporting her knowing this.
I think they had to push that narrative for a very specific reason, because knowing that I have the medical records I do have some from Louisiana. The birth date wasn't changing in Louisiana. Okay. There was no changing of a birth date from age 0 to 14. Okay.
So do you believe for one second that all of her medical records just got washed away into the Louisiana?
I have them. No, they didn't. I know this is true. We know that they have them, and I know that Mike Stanfield. I know
Yeah,
that Mike
digital
Stanfield
record.
had her pediatrician records from there because they told me they did. So that's what I'm saying. No, these records were not lost. They were not swept away in Katrina. Dee Dee signed that paper for them to request the records no less than 14 times between
And they can be digitally
2007 and
found. They can be found
2014.
digitally in the hospital
Yep.
networks.
Yep.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like I'm in a new state,
Yeah.
and you know, it's like they can find all my medical records from my previous state, whether there was a disaster there or not. Everything is even back then. You know what I mean? Even since some of the late '90s. I don't know what year it's like where you only have to have everything on paper, and if you don't have it, like all your records are lost. No,
Right.
there's a even back then there was sectors where they kept, you know, like for HIPAA law's sake, if you had to obtain medical records, they keep them, you know, in a certain, you know, they keep them in a
Right.
certain like sector of the
Yeah.
medical field where you can
Right.
obtain them. To say that Hurricane Katrina just swept everything away, we had nothing about my age, my diagnosis, anything. Like this is something with the Mackenzie Shavilla case right now
Right.
is, you know, I'm talking, you know, she's claiming the POTS narrative and all that. They tried to bring up the whole
Yes.
POTS thing. First of all, I know a lot of people that actually suffer from POTS, and
I
there's
think
not,
I do. So
yeah,
yeah.
and you know, when they do have a seizure mode, or they go into like, you know, a mode where they kind of faint. It's more fainting than anything
Yep.
else. You don't go
Yeah.
into this like state of like being like stiff, and you floor the gas pedal to the
No.
floor, and then when
No.
someone puts it into neutral, you put it back in a drive, and you're navigating a winding road. No, and secondly, this was self-diagnosed by mommy at some point, and there's no doubt. I'm like, if that was true, they could go peruse through her medical records, even if it was pediatric records from when she was a minor, and find that diagnosis. And there's no doctor. And then someone was arguing me that's like, well, there was no one that was willing to testify in the stand about the diagnosis. I'm like, because there is none. It's self-reported by mom. That's not a
Right.
diagnosis.
Right.
And also the symptoms of POTS do not match up with
No, they don't.
what happened in
No.
the car.
No, for sure they don't.
Not at all.
And here's the thing with that, like, okay, so let's say she gets all these new doctors. She moves to Missouri. She gets all these new doctors, and she convinces all the doctors that, you know, she didn't have any medical records because they were lost in Katrina. Okay, that's plausible until you think about the fact that Dr. Beckerman treated her from 4 years old on. So he
Right.
saw her at 4 years old in Louisiana all the way through till she left Louisiana because he was in Missouri, but he still was able to practice in Louisiana, and he came back several times to continue his practice there. So he was practicing in both states. So then she moves to Missouri. He knows that his records are not lost. He knows this because he still is in communication with the office. He knows that they're not
Right.
freaking lost. So you can't say, oh, all my records were lost and none of the doctors knew anything when you've got Dr. Beckerman sitting here talking about her in the medical journal about how she's his favorite patient for
Right.
19 years, you know?
Right. Not only that, but we also have the last 10 months before the unaliving where Gypsy was signing off on her own records. No problem. It's just like, gee.
No, yeah, I pointed that out the other day, and I'm not sure if everybody caught it. So in 2015, when she gets a new primary care doctor, okay, she's had Steele all the way up to 2014. I'm sorry, 2014. He is her primary care doctor from 2005 to 2014. He tries to say he stopped seeing her in 2009. That's incorrect. But on the day that he gets out of her care as the primary care, this other doctor comes in as her primary care, right? Well, guess what? The birth date to the new primary care in freaking 2014, guess what the birth date is? 1991, when she's actually born. So she, as an adult, got a new freaking primary care doctor, and that primary care doctor and all the doctors that treated her under that primary care referrals have the correct date. So for a year before this murder happens, there is no more, oh, my mom was trying to make me be 12. Nope.
No.
Nope. You were signing yourself, and they had the correct birth date.
I think everything that Gypsy is saying now and will forever say is basically whatever Mike Stanfield came up with her for her to stay. Like, hey, if we're going with this, you got to stick to your guns. And, you know, especially if you're going to get all these documentaries and,
Right.
you know, reality show. I mean, I can't believe
Oh, yeah.
how rewarded somebody was for committing a heinous crime. It's like it's astonishing. I hope Dom's law passes with
I do
Christine
too.
Russo, because that will apply to Gypsy, and I hope it's applied retroactively, because that will shut Gypsy right down. She will never be able to monetize anything based off the
Right, right.
notoriety of her crime, and she's going to
Yeah.
be dead to any monetization, and then she's going to be staring down the rabbit hole of, oh crap, what do I do now? You know what I mean? She might have to
Yeah.
get a job like the rest of us. I mean, that's nightmare fuel for her. So, yeah. Another thing is the whole. This was a pretty interesting one. Let me see. What was it? Oh boy. Well, yeah, the Barbie narrative. But also, here's my biggest question: if all of this was somehow, thank you, Jen. If all of this was legitimately true, and she's had all this malpractice done to her, and she's been like, she abused by doctors because mommy said, to physicians, do this and do that, which is just fiction. That would never happen in any facility anywhere. Their licenses would be taken away in seconds. Where's all the lawsuits? Where's all the lawsuits suing all these medical communities for all this medical abuse? It's like not a single lawsuit has ever popped up. No attorneys are jumping at Gypsy's bit saying, hey, we're going to go get you justice for all these horrible procedures that were done to you. Where's one lawsuit?
And honestly, that should have been a huge red flag for me, because when I went down there to meet them, I stayed with some friends that what the lady had been in one of my other productions that we were working on, and her husband is a malpractice lawyer and one of the best in that state in Louisiana. And I was staying with them, and I came home and I was showing him some things, just random things I had. And he's like, I can't believe she did a day. Like, I could have got her off. I can't believe this. And he's like, how do we help her? And I said, well, we could help her sue these doctors. And he's like, all right, no problem. He was going to do it for them, on contingency, on, no, nothing down, nothing. I gave her, Christy, the information. He kept asking me, hey, she hasn't called. Is she going to call? And I kept telling Christy, I'm like, dude, he's going to take this case. Why are you not calling him? Oh, I don't know. I've been busy. Oh, da, 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 blah, blah, blah. And he finally was just like, I'm too busy now. I can't do it. Like, I'm not going to be able to do it now.
I know this
should have been for me a red flag, but I just thought she was busy and not well and whatever, like I was so naive. So naive when I started.
Would be too busy for like a multi-million-dollar lawsuit that could be, if everything they say is true and they got proof of it, would be like a slam dunk for them. I mean, you're too busy for that. I
thought, well, we're still trying to get all the medical records, so we don't really have everything. Like it was a thing, and I guess I wanted so badly to believe the story that I did overlook things I shouldn't have overlooked at the time. I do understand
once
how
again,
people
it's like
do that.
they try to make Dee Dee like the mace of the face of Munchausen by proxy. But again, you have Gypsy admitting to Nick in the FOIA videos that she was lying about her ability to walk.
Yep.
And stuff like that. And also,
I don't respect any of the Munchausen by proxy experts that have signed off on this whatsoever.
Right. One of the questions I do ask in my video is, okay, let's say for a second that, because her claims and everyone else's claims that, oh, Dee Dee, once again, persuasive mommy can get anything done in the medical sector, the police, she can manipulate everybody, apparently.
It's amazing what you can do with cookies and milk, right?
Right. So basically, my whole shtick was, it's like, okay, let's pretend for 1 second that this narrative is true and that Dee Dee told the police, like, hey, don't believe anything my daughter says. She's got the mental capacity of like a 6-year-old autistic child or whatever she said to her. Said to them. It's like, okay, let's pretend I'm Gypsy for a minute. Wouldn't Gypsy, or this would be a suggestion for her, if her mom really said, first of all, Gypsy can articulate herself perfectly fine. Those FOIA videos to Nick sound very articulated and, very calculated. So it's just like, that doesn't sound like the brainchild of a 6-year-old to me. Anyways, wouldn't here's something you could do to debunk that in about 2 seconds. You roll your wheelchair down or whatever. You should go with Nick by herself, with a friend, the police, whoever. Go down to that police station, jump out of that wheelchair and start running circles around it and saying, hey, my mom has been making me sit in this wheelchair for all these years. and has been abusing me with all this medical stuff and making me lie about all these cons. I don't want to do it. Do you really think if a police officer heard her articulate that and show a clear example of one of the lies being debunked right there and be like, yep, she's got the mental capacity of a 6-year-old?
Yeah, for
And plus,
sure.
if she had the mental capacity of a 6-year-old, how does she have the ability to sign off on her own medical records?
How does she have the ability to
Doesn't
stand and
he?
talk at every fundraiser there ever was? And people
Right.
said she talked eloquently and she could move a whole crowd to donate. No shit.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Right. So it's just
yeah,
like I don't understand if she had the mental capacity of a 6-year-old, then she was one smart 6-year-old.
6-year-old for sure. For
Like
sure.
I was pretty blown away by this, and yeah. Oh, just really quick, Ghostface, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
I've seen most of the documentary, but question is, was she involved with the case? Because people say Nick was part of it. Who was actually the one that did it?
He was the muscle, but he was manipulated over a good 2+ year period. He had level 2 autism, and he never really, his gypsy targeted, including Ryan Anderson, men that were very kind of vulnerable, not too much experience with the, girlfriend, like attention from women field, and she was a big love bomber. She'd make you feel like you were, she called them her soulmates, and what I mean, really put them through
Gaslighting,
experiences
yeah.
that like attention that they never received from a woman before, and she kind of like made it like an addiction for them. So they didn't want to lose it in any shape or form. And Nicholas, by the way, even talked to his ex-girlfriend slash friend and said, "Hey, I think my current girlfriend's a little bit crazy. What do you think about this?" And then about the whole Schmurder thing. And then I guess his ex-girlfriend said, "Well, if it's a self-defense issue, then." It wouldn't be a problem. And, that's basically, that was the end of that. But, if Nick is inquiring to someone else that this sounds a little bit nuts, then how is this his plan and his desire, as Bree likes to say so much, oh, he wanted to do this so badly. Well, then why would he tell his girlfriend, oh, hey, this sounds a little bit crazy? Why wouldn't he sit there? And plus, like, again, according to Gypsy herself, even when they were engaging in things, whether it takes place in a movie theater bathroom or in a hotel with brownies, he couldn't even build a tower, if you know what I mean, when it comes
Right.
to being in bed with him. So it's
Right.
just
Who was
like,
it? Apparently, he had a dark side of him.
I mean,
No, okay.
I
The
think a
dark
lot of that
side,
had to
good
do with. I
side
think
thing.
Gypsy
Yeah.
created this little alternate fantasy world, and he was just trying to match the energy to impress her. That's the impression I'm getting, because whenever I see him talking to the camera, it's like the worst thing I heard him say is, "We're getting married, and I'm gonna treat you like a princess, and that's the end of it." I'm just like,
Right.
wow,
Right.
so
Right.
scary.
Um,
I don't know.
I
And like I
think that
said,
was a lot of that
anything
was
that I've heard from
fostered by
him,
Gypsy. I think a lot of that was fostered by Gypsy,
it was.
because he's not the only one that has these dark sides. Dan had a dark side.
Dan Glidewell.
David had a dark
Dan
side. They
Glidewell. It's like,
all,
what if the? It's always anytime
Brian
Gypsy
had a
gets with
dark side.
somebody, it's
They
always
all
like
had
from
it.
dark fantasies. They all had it,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah. Exactly.
when she would go to those events with them. It's just like they all shared the passion, like the dark sides and vampires and like all this stuff that like had to
Yeah.
do with and she would sexualize just about every aspect of it. So you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
I think she admitted somewhere where she was like doing like she had some like hyper sexuality since like her single digit ages and stuff like that. Like really
Yeah.
crazy
Yeah.
stuff. I'm like, this girl
Well, the
just
one
had
that
it.
I thought was interesting is they have told everybody for years before these videos came out that when he would be the Shireen character, the voices that would come out of his mouth were just so scary and da 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 da. And then you play it and you find this, and the worst that he is like, okay, this is Shireen, and I'm gonna tell you what to do. Like, it sounds so ridiculous. It sounds like a 5-year-old playing a part, not a grown man trying to be scary. You know
Not
what I
only
mean?
that, but also like Bree and the rest of them were really trying to like play this narrative, like, oh,
oh yeah,
Nick would send her all these sheets that she would have to read off of, and would like come up with all these
bullshit.
scenarios. I'm like, I don't see her reading off a teleprompter anywhere. She seems to be
No.
just coming up with this off of like off the top of her head, pretty cohesively. It's just like I don't don't see any evidence of her looking at a teleprompter or reading from anything. It's just like, she's speaking very quickly. She's speaking very assuredly. It's like, you know what I mean? And plus, like, there was that one video, thank God we didn't have to see it, but we heard it about her putting the camera and showing off her shaving in certain places that we shouldn't. I hope that camera got sterilized in some way or thrown away. But you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, look at this and look at that. You can look at it. It's just like, who does that? I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. That's gross.
Yeah, it's all weird.
But
It's all
again,
weird.
to believe Gypsy Rose's narrative, you have to turn your entire world sideways. You have to completely ignore all the FOIA evidence. You have to ignore all of common
Yeah.
sense, and you just have to go ride or die based off of Gypsy said so, and that's all. It's just like it's
It
one of the
is.
most
Yeah, it
bonkers
is.
things.
And how can you even like? It's so funny for them to say, "Well, Gypsy said this." I'm like, okay, but let's take out any one of the times that you say Gypsy said this, and I'll show you 5 alternate stories that Gypsy has told about that exact thing.
Correct. I can name many alternate stories. Now, you know what I wish when I had Bree on my live last year. I just got done working because again, when I was working in Brooklyn, it was a 5 hour round trip commute. I was extremely tired, and I do this live with Ken one night, which was pretty nice. You know what I mean? I got along with him just fine, but you know what I mean. But Bree wanted to come on a couple days later, and she's like, she wanted me to have like everything ready, right. I'm like, well, first of all, you didn't give me any. Like, we know if we're gonna do a live and we're gonna talk about certain topics, maybe you should tell me what those topics are so I can prepare to talk about those topics and get the information that I in my notes ready to go right there. But she wanted me to have everything at the top of my head right then and there, and then she claims that she has 800 pages, 8,000, sorry, 1,000 pages of medical records, but she mentions it, but she's like, you know what? None of you deserve to see it. I'm like, so
It's funny because the
bring it
only
up?
ones she can ever produce are the ones that I put out.
Um, she didn't. Okay, here's the only text that she produced, and she had to really go through mental gymnastics to change it to the narrative she wanted. It's one
Right.
text message where basically they were talking about sex, of course, because that's Gypsy's favorite subject.
Yeah.
And I remember Gypsy said something to Nick to the effect of, "Well, we have all day tomorrow after the schmurder to do sex or whatever." And he goes, "Well, you're gonna have to deal with my dark side first." Again, I think he's facilitating her fantasies.
Her
And then
fantasies. Yeah.
she goes, "Will you go easy on me?" And that's all she says. She didn't say no. She's just like, "Will you go easy on me?" And then in Bree's world, whatever mental gymnastics she said, she's like, that's a clear example of her saying no, and I'm pulling out of this. I'm like, so because she said go easy on me, that means no, and I want nothing to do with this or the schmurder. I'm like, how'd you go from A to B with that? Other than that's
Right.
just your wishful thinking. I'm just like,
Yeah.
that's not the case. Go to the brownie video, and there's your answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't see her too terrified there. I didn't see her in any active resistance there. She seems to be quite humored with what's going on, and she seems to be taking the lead in just that whole scenario. Like Nick is barely talking. Nick is just kind of
Yeah.
like laughing with her in the background, and she's like, he's doing this, and he's gonna do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like everything that I see between her and Nick, like when it comes to the just the dynamics between them, she seems to be in taking the lead at all times. I never hear Nick ordering her to do anything, or even him raising his voice in any way. But we're supposed to believe he's this vicious monster, like that from
Yeah.
even before he met like her, and it's just like, no, we have evidence of her behaving the same way with men before Nick. It's just like,
Yes.
we have that. We have nothing about Nick other than some hearsay from one person apparently that he might have had something. But again, it's just like you have to really understand people with with autism. It's just like you cannot sit there unless you have like some knowledge about how like, between like sexuality and like the way that autistic people like correlate those things. It's like you can't just sit there and come up with a conclusion without any education of knowing like how autistic people think. And again, it's just like even when they were engaged in such things, Gypsy herself said he couldn't get it up. It's like that's a really ineffective rapist if I've ever heard one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really hope people. Where's that music from?
Not me.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Is that you, Fancy? Hold on. Sorry, that was really loud. I was gonna. Okay, yeah, that was really loud.
I do
Anyway,
believe like people with autism can change. Whether they
well,
want
I
to,
mean,
it's up
again,
to them.
I have to get more educated on people with autism. I'm not one to sit here and, and say if they can change or if they cannot change. Like, no, that's a subject that's again, the spectrum is very, very broad. It's hard to say like who could change, how it could change. I don't have enough education to speak on it. Bree thinks she can, but it's just like, you know what I mean. I'm gonna be, I'm intellectually honest, and I can say for sure. How am I going to sit there and comment on like how an autistic person thinks about things that us regular people think and how they deal with it, especially when it comes to something emotional, schmexual, or what have you. You need to actually navigate those things with either getting versed into the subjects or like reading long-term studies. And plus, like, again, the spectrum is such a wide range. It's just like you don't know. There's no like one answer for anything. So that's why it's very dangerous for people like Bree to sit there and think that she's got an answer about Nicholas Godejohn when she doesn't even understand like the fundamental basics of like how autism works or what their thought process is. Especially when the autism like broad range is very 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 big spectrum. So again, it's like and that's another thing that me and Becca Scoops talked about a while ago. Is just like how people could sit there and put all these judgments on Nicholas Godejohn when it's just like he's got a condition with autism that's probably very complex that would take a lot of different types of testing and different kinds of education in that field to understand. So for people to sit there that can like read a couple things that he said or hear a couple things that he said and know exactly what he's thinking and why he's thinking it is ridiculous, because it's just like you have no education in that, and you know what I mean, or any research on that, let alone Nicholas in his case specifically, because again, everyone with autism has a different case by case basis. So that's why it's dangerous when people start going into stuff like this, when it's just like you have no education not only on autism but let alone the spectrum of autism and each individual person that has autism. Like I said, they could be thinking something completely different from one person to the next depending on where in the spectrum they fall. So you know what I mean, like that's why I can't sit there and say
Yeah.
like, well, Nick was thinking this or Nick was doing this. I can see based off his mannerisms and based off of like his history and things that he said and done, I can use common sense with it. But at the end of the day, it's just like I can't sit there and be like, well, yeah, this is definitely this. But one thing I do see that's clear as day, and I'm pretty sure most people would agree, is the vulnerability and his lack of experience with female attention. And I think like someone, especially with autism, would fall into that trap pretty easily. And again, it's just like it's not like this is something he was hell bent on doing. It's just like he was calling his ex girlfriend, like, "Is this woman crazy?" Like, I need a second opinion here. And he even suggested to Gypsy, "Hey, why don't we just run away? Why don't we just do something else?" And like I said, if Gypsy truly wanted to get like, and also like one of the last parts of the forensic audit on Dee Dee's phone is her looking for like shelters to send Gypsy to. So no, she wasn't going to be. She didn't want Gypsy to stay there and trap her there. She was actually trying to get rid of her from all the things that I see. Using my common sense and looking at the Google searches, it's like, why would she be Googling stuff about young women and shelters? It's not going to be for herself. So, what young woman is she closest to? Her daughter. So I think walls were closing in on Gypsy, and she's like, you know what? I can't stand mom anymore, and I want this pink house all to myself. That's what I think a lot of it had to do with just pure greed and just like everything that was in that house. And plus, she had a whole new grift after that. My poor mom got unalived by this crazy man. Oh my God, poor me. You know what I mean? It's like that was another part of the motivation. I think is like she had a whole new grip, a whole new something new that she can gain sympathy from. So I think like yeah, that's just where it stands for me. But I think everyone that's watching should participate. I just posted the video of me asking questions to the supporters, and if you guys have questions, leave them in there. I'll respond to them, and then I'll challenge. I'm going to tag a lot of the supporters that I know of. I don't care if it's Bree, Sheena, Dreamer, whoever. It's like they can come in and say whatever they want, and
I do believe, like, I'm not defending or anyone, but I do believe that he's still a human being and he's still, he made a mistake, but he can learn from that.
Well, I mean, like I said, like I'm not going to downplay what he did as just a mistake, but I do believe he was groomed and manipulated into making
this
that,
folder back to you.
making those choices.
It will be
The balance?
128.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I figured.
Yep.
That's perfect.
Sorry, Irene, I did mute you for a second. It was kind of loud on your end, but yeah, just altogether, like I said, with Nicholas Godejohn, I think the system failed him horribly by just throwing him away and not even giving him any mitigation. I thought his autism, especially, and the fact that there's documented proof that Gypsy was pushing and pulling, pushing and pulling and pushing and pulling with, that whole, like, I'll break up with you if you don't do this. We're done. We're back. We're done. We're back. Got to do this for me. Kind of, you know what I mean? That how that didn't go into mitigation absolutely floors me. Because it's just like, some people like get mitigation just from having no, like, previous criminal record. And he didn't have anything previous, not that I know of anyway. And it's just like, it's just amazing that the system just threw him out without any conscience. And another thing that baffles me is, why is Nick so tight-lipped right now? He said he was going to make a statement eventually years ago. It's just like whether maybe he's still in love with Gypsy. I don't know what his case is, but it's just like he needs to come out and start talking. I would love to hear what he has to say.
I reckon he should be released.
I think maybe not released right away. I think he should be evaluated, like, like I think he should be transferred to maybe like a mental health facility. And
Yeah.
I think it should be up to, because it's kind of like the whole, like, like people like Andrea Yates and people with postpartum depression and people that have, like, documented mental, like, histories that have committed, like, really violent crimes. Usually instead of like living in the prison system and going to a parole board in maybe a couple of decades, which again, he's got life without parole. He's not even going to have any of that to look forward to. I think he should been somewhere where he's getting the treatment that he needs, and then they release him based on, his rehabilitation factors. But again, they're not even going to give him a chance to do any of that. So it's a little bit crazy that, you know what I mean, that the system's just going to throw him away just to use him as a patsy because, you know what I mean, like, they gave Gypsy this plea deal and they need someone held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. So they look over to Nick. It's like, you're going to be the fall guy, buddy. And it's just a travesty of justice. And it's just like, no matter what, like, again, it's like, no matter where I look, like, when some people are talking about, like, I would love to see the next big documentary that comes out on Netflix is like Gypsy Rose, the FOIA files. I want to see that. If I saw that, then that would dismantle, like, her entire narrative, even though it has been dismantled. But I mean, to the masses, because, like, what was scary? I did a video recently responding to named Shia, where she's just like, "Oh, there's this conspiracy theory about how Gypsy Rose was in it all along, and she played some bigger role." It's like, well, and then instead of, like, attacking her and giving her my own narrative, I'm like, let's listen to the horse's mouth. And I go back to the Nicholas's trial where they ask her two questions. How did Nick know when to commit this crime? And who planned this crime? And she goes, I did. So that's not a conspiracy theory. That's something out of Gypsy Rose's own mouth. So it's funny that, people that think they know the case are coming on there on a soapbox thinking it's like, oh, she didn't do anything wrong. It's like, you didn't even watch the trial. You didn't.
I know she has a baby now.
Who does?
Gypsy.
Oh no, we know about Aurora. Aurora's been around for a while, but again, like, that's an innocent victim in this, in my opinion.
Oh,
She's collateral damage in this entire situation. And again, I think, like, the baby was for, a plot device for Gypsy to make sure that Ken can't leave as easily as he did last time, and, you know what I mean, she can attach herself to him for the rest of her life, through this baby. Because he already had the ability to tell Gypsy bye-bye once already, and she wasn't willing to take that chance. So she's like, how can I absolutely hold this man down as quick as I can? Well, just get preggo. And she did it, like, so fast, it's like, it made my head spin. I'm like, wait, I heard about the pregnancy before I even heard about her and Ken getting back together. That's how fast that happened. I'm like, that's quite astonishing. But yeah, anyways, like, my biggest thing is, I just want to come on here and just, like, first of all, say hello to everybody this Monday morning. And secondly, yeah, go to the most recent video if you guys want to participate, and just listen to the questions that I have in there. And I want you guys to come up with your own questions so I can put that in the next video, and things that we want to address our supporters with. So it's like, if you have anything that you want to add to that, leave it in a comment in that video, so that way, you know what I mean, I can put that in the next one, and we'll see how many of her supporters come in there. And again, I told them in the very beginning, we're not going to go by Gypsy said so. Because again, it's like if we're just going to go by her words, then it's going to be debunked in 3 seconds, because she's talked about most of these like situations, and contradicted them in like another narrative. You know what I mean? Like the BB Pew Pew, for example, and the whole Barbie dolls thing, and not knowing her age thing. It's like like literally during the debunk series I just posted part 5 also recently today. Like these are things where she can't have it both ways. Her supporters can't sit there and watch it and be like, well, it's both. It's like, no, it's one or the other. It cannot be. It cannot be both. So I'm in very like I don't know. I guess I'm in anticipation of seeing how they're going to come up and twist this and debunk this in some way, when it's obvious as daylight. This woman lies, and the only thing I said I'm going to take belief in is if there's corroborative evidence. You got to corroborate things like Gypsy Rose people say. So like same with Casey Anthony, same with Jodi Arias. It's like the only time you can believe anything they say is if there's something corroborating anything that they've claimed. And so far, like, you know what I mean, I haven't seen corroboration on pretty much anything, other than the FOIA files, and there's nothing in those FOIAs that make her look good. And it's just
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you know a lot about true crime?
Yeah.
Do you know much about Carla Homolka and Paul Bernardo?
Yeah, and the Canadian couple, the Barbie and Ken case. Yep.
Yeah. Question: how can Carla be released for parole, but Ken doesn't?
You mean that can be? You mean Paul?
Yeah.
Well, Paul was basically the ringleader in this whole thing, and he's the one that was doing all the graping. And, Carla was just the one that was. Well, first of all, they didn't find all those tapes yet, the ones that show that she's an active participant. So they kind of already gave her. Like I said, the Canadian justice system is just as flawed, if not worse. Where, I mean, I've seen them let horrible people back out on the streets. And, based on little to other, they keep sealing court records for some of these horrible people, when I think that it shouldn't be sealed. It should be public information, just like we do. And again, it's just like, when they take, and I think like how Carla was able to get out, like when them knowing, and they had it on the videos of her actively participating, and not just the the unalivings and the grapes that her husband was doing at the time, but one of them being her own sister. So again, it's just the justice system dropping a ball for whatever reason. And then even after they found the evidence of her, I think it was before they found the evidence of her being far more involved, she sat there and played a victim, and she believed, and a lot of the justice system believed it. So they give her a slap on the wrist, and she's been out under a couple new identities or what have you. I don't know if she's reoffended or not, because once again, I mean, it's a little bit dangerous. Like, have you heard of that one Canadian case where that one guy, I think he's from Vietnam or somewhere, where he went on a bus. He went on like a coach bus or something like that. One of those buses that like travels like, across like, same as like a Greyhound bus here. Basically, what happened was this guy that said God was talking to him. He sat next to this random guy. He was traveling with a carnival, and he ended up. I'm gonna try not to get this live community like standard. I'm trying not to get this live restricted, but he basically cut this. He was sitting next to a guy that was just with his eyes closed, listening to music, and he just took a big poker and just cut his off.
The hell?
Right on the bus, and held it up, and everyone just flew off the bus. And these people said the screams that this guy had was like something they never could get out of their heads, I can imagine. And then basically, like, he was walking around the bus and holding the guy's head up and everything, and like one of the most grisly things you'd see this in a horror movie. And this guy, they just sent him to some mental health ranch for a short period of time. I think maybe a year or two. He's out free right now. They're taking.
Hell?
Yeah, I forget. I think it's something Lee was his name. I forget exactly his name, but look for like Greyhound bus, like unaliving Canada.
Jeffrey Dahmer would have to be the scariest case. I'm sorry.
I mean, this guy. I mean, imagine seeing a guy pacing. Imagine seeing a guy get his top of his body cut off, and then he's just you leave the bus, and then you just see this guy walking up to the window and just holding the head up like it's a prize. It's crazy, but there's a lot of documentary stuff on it. Yeah, the guy's walking around free right now.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Canadian justice system is probably worse than the U.S. one, and like I said, it's crazy. And then you got all these, like the Mackenzie Shavilla case is another rabbit hole I'm down, along with Taylor Parker and a few others. But like, Mackenzie has this whole host of people that think she's innocent. I don't know how, because it's like first of all, they didn't like arrest her overnight. They examined the car. They examined Mackenzie's medical records. They examined everything, you know what I mean, to try to corroborate. Like they didn't want to believe that she did this on purpose. They did everything to try to look into the narrative that this was done by accident. But every time they kept running into a piece of evidence, it was just like, it kept pointing to her guilt more and more and more and more. And it was just one of the craziest cases. It's crazy watching people, especially like more jail phone calls are getting out, and you should hear some of the horrifying dynamics between Mackenzie and her mother. It's clearly that Mackenzie's parents were not running the household. Mackenzie herself was. And another interesting thing is, I didn't even know for a while that she has a sister named Danielle. Like, where's Danielle in all this? You know what I mean? I'm thinking maybe she's probably like Dylan, Blanchard just doesn't want anything to do with the circus or what have you. But it's obvious that, Mackenzie's like the little baby of the family, the prize of the family. It's just like she bosses her parents around like they're servants. And it's like one of the most ugliest dynamics in the world. Natalie, if you ever watched the sentencing for Natalie Shavilla going up there to give her little statement, it's just like the judge had to call her out a couple times. She's like, you know what, Natalie? It's like, I'm hearing a lot about your daughter, but nothing about the victims. And then she goes, well, Davion was a new friend. She's like, does that mean his life didn't matter as much? It's like, I love that judge. It's like, because she was not going to let that woman just, sit there and try to manipulate situations, because it was just all about her trying to find mitigation for her daughter. She had no concern about the victims' families. She pretended she did. And then she gets on a jail phone call with Mackenzie and says, these are evil people. These are evil people, Mackenzie. It's horrible. And she's got, right now, on documentation, almost 40 documented infractions in prison, and there's people that have been turned away for parole with just one or two. She's racked up like 40 in just 3 years. That's insane. So like the parole board, when who knows how many she'll have by 15 years, but that parole board's gonna have an absolute field day with her. She's not going anywhere. And it's like, it was just brought to the highest, I think just a few days ago, Mackenzie's case went to the Ohio Supreme Court. That's like the highest level you can take it to, and they didn't even they don't even have to look at your case if they don't want to. And that's exactly what happened. They're like, we don't even want to see it. But anyways, you guys, I'm gonna get going for now. I just wanted to give you guys a quick check-in, let you know about those videos, and I want you guys to participate. Come over to that video and leave your questions for the Gypsy supporters in there and see if they can answer them. So, you know what I mean? Whether they watch the video or because I'm gonna tag some of them in there. I'll probably tag Sheena, I'll probably tag Bree. I'll probably tag Christy herself or a few of them, because like I want some answers to these questions that does not start with, well, Gypsy said. And it's like, nope. It's like, I cannot go by what pathological liars say. I need some actual corroboration of evidence. If you guys want to blindly follow somebody and selectively believe whatever a pathological liar says, go right ahead. I'm not doing it. And I don't think not too many people with a brainstem would do that either. You know what I mean? It's, of course, they have a bias. They're going to believe whatever she says, and no matter what she does. I think even one of them, I think Sheena even admitted that she could reoffend. She could do something heinous, and she'll still stick by her. I mean, if you want to have blind ride or die faith for them, then go right ahead. But it's just like, that's dangerous. That's dangerous. So obviously Gypsy's got a very profound effect on people that are, vulnerable, like, or easily led. I don't know how to explain it. But anyways, guys, I'm going to get going. Thank you guys for coming on to the panel for a little while. And I'll talk to you guys a little later. Check out the new videos when you get a chance. And leave those questions in that video if you guys get a chance. You guys have a great rest of your work week. I'll check with you guys later.